pretend that you have COVID, pretend that you have a fever, and hide in your room. But come on lah, not that nice lah. Chinese New Year once a year only. Spend some time with them, see what you can get out of it. Man, I feel so weird. I don't have my girls here today with me. But you know what? It's been a great 2 months of festivities and I'm so happy they're taking a good break. And of course, it being Chinese New Year, one of my favorite festivals of the year, I don't want to miss this chance to catch up with all of you on Hush Podcast, watching us on YouTube as well as TikTok. Now, in just a few days' time, it's going to be Chinese New Year. Are you prepared for the Year of the Rabbit? So, what does Chinese New Year mean to you? Well, for me, I think it's a very welcoming period because I grew up in a Chinese-speaking family. So every time it comes to Chinese New Year, all my relatives gather, we eat together, we have fun together, we play cards together. It's always a time of happiness and laughter, and I'm always looking forward to Chinese New Year every single year. Now, I know for many of us, Chinese New Year is a great and fun time to catch up with our friends and family, but I also understand that's not the case for some of the people. We might face with overbearing relatives, we might face with friends who are a bit more ignorant or arrogant, I'd say. So that's why I'm here to share with you some tips for the upcoming Chinese New Year. But before that, here are some stories from our listeners and people online. Someone says, I love CNY food and able to just have a day to bribe my papa and mama to dress up and take photos. But it's a day of gossips and judgment, but the ang pao money makes up for it. I know, but sometimes it's fun, right? Listening to your mom gossip about other people. I mean, it's not a sight that you get to see on a daily basis. Another person says, what I dislike is relatives asking me about my relationship status and why I am still single at the age of 23. Then they will say it's because my standards too high and I'm chasing idols, and this stresses me out. For the record, 23 years old and still single, you're actually still very young. Take your time. If you want to chase idols, go for it. Don't let anyone stress you out. Just take things in your own stride and at your own time and pacing, okay? Ooh, another not so great message. This person says, Chinese New Year is not so great for me because there's no family to hang out with. The worst part of my Chinese New Year is when I have to work on the day itself, and by the time I get back, everyone has gone home. Oh, that's so sad. I used to have a friend. She came from China and then, she started studying in Singapore, but her parents are still in China. So every Chinese New Year, I'll invite her over to my place and we'll just have hot pot together with my family. So maybe you can ask your friends, to invite you to dinners so you can spend a good time together. I know it's gonna sound a bit like thick skin for you to open your mouth and actually ask that, but true friends wouldn't mind. Next comment. I have relatives that are damn kaypoh in every aspect of my life. Some examples of the things they ask are,
girl, which JC or poly you enter? Hey, what stream you go You got study bro, why your score so bad? Back in my day I never studied and I work part-time, still can get to med school leh.
After years of non-stop questions and interrogation, I had enough. So I siam New Year gatherings and use working part-time as an excuse. But I'm sure I'll need to show face in the next one. Anybody gonna siam far this year? Please send survival tips. You know what I think? Some of these bad experiences can be avoided. So here are my tips for surviving Chinese New Year. Number 1, why not just be brutally honest with your relatives or friends? If they ask you what JC or poly you enter, what stream you're going to, just answer truthfully. Sometimes I feel like there is no point avoiding all the questions they ask you. Maybe they would just like to use this chance to strike a conversation with you and try to understand you better. Would it help if you thought things from a different point of view? Secondly, apart from being brutally honest, I also feel like maybe you can ask your relatives questions as well. It isn't always a one-way street. What if you ask your aunt, how are things between you and your husband? Or like, have you traveled anywhere recently? It takes away their attention from you. It distracts them from all the questions that they are gonna bombard you with. Thirdly, look at all of this. Chinese New Year, what do we love the most? The goodies and the food. I think a very efficient way to shut our relatives up is to enjoy the good food together. They may seem like nothing, but they can actually be a very good conversation starter. But when it comes to questions about marriage or like even having babies, really, just be honest. Even if you don't feel like having a baby with your partner, why not just tell your relatives, oh no, we don't plan to have a baby anytime soon. We just want to focus on ourselves for now. I'm sure they can understand. Of course, they are going to say things like,
you shouldn't do that, you should have a baby, man. Then you can take care of you when you guys are old.
always be be prepared for that, but just know that, you are entitled to your own opinions and your own ways of doing things, and you don't have to be obliged to listen to their opinions, okay? And for my listeners who are still schooling, you may get this question a lot. Oh, how are your grades doing in school? Oh, what do you get for O-levels? Or what do you get for PSLE, etc.? But just know that, you have your own timeline and your own path for your future. So just take things in your own stride. Just do you. Just study well and do the best that you can. And the rest, honestly, I think is up to God. It's not even up to your aunt. So just chillax. So if they keep asking you the same question, just reflect. Reflect the question back to them. Tai Chi back to them. Ask them, hey, aunt, what do you get for PSLE back in the time? And immediately, this distraction will be a success because they will go on and on and on about their lives in kampong, etc. And lastly, another tip about being brutally honest. This may not sound the most polite, but I think it's a hard truth. Every time your relatives ask you or compares you to someone else, just tell them, because I'm not you. I'm not who you expect me to be. I have my own path to follow. And I believe they will get the hint that they are crossing the line and hopefully stop the questioning from there on. Of course, another way is to, pretend that you have COVID, pretend that you have a fever, and hide in your room. But come on lah, not that nice lah. Chinese New Year once a year only. It's probably gonna be like the first and the last time you're gonna see them in the next 365 days. Maybe spend some time with them, see what you can get out of it. Apart from all the questioning from relatives, here are some other tips you can feel good for Chinese New Year. Number one, what you wear is actually very, very important. During Chinese New Year, all we want to do is eat, right? At least that's all I want to do lah. So, one tip is to dress up nicely, get your OOTDs taken, yourself, with your family, with your siblings, your relatives, and then change out of it into a soft, comfortable cotton t-shirt and shorts, and just have a good time with your family. Just eat all that you want to eat and don't even have to worry about your food, baby. Number two, always prepare plasters. I know during Chinese New Year, a lot of ladies like to go out in high heels. That's a right, okay? That's every woman's right. But of course, you may end up with some blisters all over your feet, so plasters are always a must. Number three, always prepare backup dresses and shoes in the car. My car is like an entire wardrobe. You can find 3 days worth of clothes in it. I have probably 9 pairs of shoes, slippers, sandals or high heels in my car, just so anytime I need quick change, it's always right there. Also, if you don't drive a car, always make sure to schedule a pit stop back home so you can get home, freshen up, change to another outfit maybe, or even get a good nap in. Next up, apart from clothes, some other things that you should always prepare. First of all, red packets. I mean, of course, if you're married and you have to issue red packets, you want to avoid that embarrassing situation where the other party gives your kids red packets and you don't have anything to give them back, right? But if you're not married, of course, you have to do what we call the 拜年. Always make sure that you have oranges here with you. This is all too common, Every time we go to someone's place, for Chinese New Year, for visiting, and then we give them our oranges. When we leave their place, we just forget about it. By the time we get to the next stop, we realize that, oh no, we don't have our oranges with us. So always prepare more oranges. So I'm sure all of you have heard, maybe back in the times, during Chinese New Year, it's bad luck to wash your hair. I just want to ask, do you still practice that? I don't know, but I have to wash my hair every single day, and Chinese New Year is no exception. If you still practice not washing your hair during Chinese New Year, I totally respect that. But please prepare your dry shampoo. Next up, getting enough rest. During Chinese New Year, you need a lot of energy to be speaking with your cousins, your friends. You need energy for mahjong, for poker games. So rest is key, okay? Always try to hit 6 to 8 hours of rest, and of course 6 to 8 glasses of water. That's very, very important to stay hydrated, especially with all the heaty Chinese New Year goodies that you're going to be having. Of course, you might have heard that it is bad luck to break things during Chinese New Year. So buy things that are not breakable, maybe some cute little plastic plates. Unfortunately, if you break your glass or ceramic plates, it's okay. Just say this with me, 岁岁平安, and all will be good. Trust, okay, trust. Also, when it comes to Chinese New Year, small talk is unavoidable. So here are the top 3 topics I think can start off small talk really, really well. Number 1, the weather in Singapore is always a topic everywhere. Number 2, the food in Singapore. The Chinese New Year goodies, there's so much to talk about. Like, who gave you these goodies? Did you buy them yourselves? Where do you buy them at? So you can talk about food for an entire hour, I promise you. Number 3, your career. I think it's totally fine for you to be sharing more about your career with your family. This way, time will pass really, really fast, and you might even realize that, hey, I'm really enjoying Chinese New Year with my relatives. But if the above 3 points do not appeal to you, here are some other ways that you can make small talk. Climate change? Yeah, food. Okay.
Climate change!
Weather, climate change, food. Okay. Bound to work.
The thing about small talk is you gotta listen a lot, right? So take an interest in what the person does, right?
Right.
Their job, you know, if they have family, if they have kids, just anything like that that gives you a semblance of what they are interested in.
Right.
Yeah.
And compliments.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a very good starter.
You can talk about yourself, but don't just like go on and on and on about yourself.
Yeah, and don't be a kiss ass.
So all in all, this is just a pretty concise episode on the upcoming Chinese New Year, and I hope you took away a thing or two. For me, when it comes to Chinese New Year, fortunately for my brothers and sisters, when my aunties and uncles come to my house, they are always more interested in me because they see me on TV, they hear me on radio. Of course, they have a lot of questions to ask me, right? So my brother and sister are just like, yeah, and then they get to play poker cards with my cousins. But I honestly don't mind. It really creates a strong bond between us. When I was younger, I would never forget that my aunts were the people who cooked for me, who fed me, who taught me how to ride a bicycle even. I just hope that I can give them this kind of attention that they have once given to me. Here are some proverbs that I want to share with you this Chinese New Year. The first one, of course, with all the talk about family and relatives, it's a bit cringy, but I want to share with you these 4 words, and that is 血浓于水. In English, it's just blood is thicker than water. So no matter how overbearing your relatives may be, just always remember that they are your family for a reason, and I'm sure they definitely care about you from the bottom of their heart. Okay, I'm a very family-oriented girl, so my second proverb is also about family. 没有温暖，何以为家? Without, the warmth, where does family ever come from? So I feel like this warmth is a two-way street. Your relatives, your family must put in the work, and you yourself must as well. If they ask you questions, maybe you can reciprocate. If they give you ang pao, you can say thank you. You can, afford to spend like 5 minutes chatting things up with them before going back to your mahjong table. It takes 2 hands to clap to create a happy, blissful family. Third, I really love this. This one is by our producers. 衣不如新，人不如故. And this basically means clothing is cherishable when new, but relationship is cherishable when old. This proverb is a good and timely reminder for me as well to not forget about my old friends, to not forget about my family or take them for granted. Every Chinese New Year is a new chance to reconnect with them. Last proverb or 成语 that I want to share today. We talked so much about all the questions our relatives have been bombarding us with, but 盛情难却. When someone is full of good intentions and kindness towards you, it is really hard to reject them. Think of it this way, all the questions that they ask you, all the food that they present you with, they cook for you, it is all an act of kindness from them. They only want the best for you. So just be kinder to your relatives, your friends and your families. Of course, I also want to send all my love to people who don't have their families around with them this Chinese New Year. I know things must be very, very tough for you to spend such an important festival on your own. But please know that, Hush Podcast is with you. You can always tune in to us anytime. We are everywhere. You have our company always. So with that, thank you so much for tuning into this therapeutic episode of Hush Podcast. I'll be back next time together with Jeremy and Azura. So in the meantime, do follow us on Instagram at itsclarity.co. And of course, listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Millicent, wherever you consume your audio content. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. 新年快乐! Hush Podcast will be there. Thank you. Sorry. It's okay.
Got the bird sound like Cinderella.
Huh?
That like. Hello.
Very long good luck.